I need to write this down before I forget how it started. Before I convince myself I'm imagining things. My upstairs neighbor died 4 days ago. I found her. Mrs. Patterson, 73, lived directly above my apartment in Portland. Nice lady. Held doors, smiled in the hallway. I'd carry her groceries sometimes. Tuesday morning, water started dripping from my ceiling. I put a bowl under it and went to work. When I got home, the bowl was overflowing and water was pooling on my floor. I went upstairs and knocked. No answer. I could hear water running inside, a lot of it. I called the building manager. Tom opened her door with his master key. The smell hit first. Then we saw her. Bathroom floor, blue nightgown, one arm stretched toward the door like she'd been crawling. The tub was overflowing. She was gray. Obviously dead. Tom called 911. I waited in the hall, trying not to look at the water spreading under the door. The paramedics arrived fast. One of them, a woman in her 40s, asked when I'd last seen Mrs. Patterson alive. Sunday evening. She seemed fine. The paramedic nodded. You can go back to your apartment. I hesitated. What happened? Did she fall? She glanced at her partner. Looks like a stroke while getting in the bath. These things happen. It was quick. That word stuck with me. Quick. But the tub ran for hours. The stroke itself was quick. She wouldn't have suffered. I started to say something about her being halfway to the door, about what that implied, but the paramedic was already turning away. I went back downstairs. Couldn't sleep. Next day at lunch, I told my coworker Sarah. That's awful, she said. At least it was quick. I stared at her. That's exactly what the paramedic said. Well, yeah. Better than suffering, right? But she was trying to get to the door. I don't think it was quick. Sarah frowned. If the paramedic said it was quick, it was quick. They'd know. She went back to her salad. It's sad, but at least she didn't suffer. Something about the way she said it made my skin crawl. That evening, Mrs. Patterson's son showed up. I recognized him from his monthly visits. Tall, graying hair, red eyes. He was holding trash bags outside his mother's apartment. I'm sorry for your loss, I said. I'm the one who found her. Thank you for calling it in. His voice was flat. At least it was quick. My stomach dropped. Actually, I wanted to ask, she was on the floor near the door, not in the tub. Like she'd been trying to. The paramedic said stroke. In the tub. Quick. He wasn't looking at me. She wouldn't have known what was happening. But the position of her body suggests. I need to pack her things. He went inside and shut the door. I stood there feeling like I'd said something wrong without knowing what. The next morning at my coffee shop, Denise asked how I was doing. I told her about Mrs. Patterson. Oh honey, that's terrible. At least it was quick. My jaw tightened. Everyone keeps saying that exact thing. Well, if the professionals said so, that's something to be grateful for. Better than the alternative. I'm not looking for comfort. The way I found her doesn't match what people keep telling me. Denise smiled gently. Try not to dwell on it, okay? At least she didn't suffer. Someone coughed behind me in line. I left. At work, I couldn't focus. I kept seeing Mrs. Patterson's arm stretched toward the door. If she'd had a sudden stroke in the tub, she would have slumped in the water. She wouldn't have made it 3 feet across the bathroom floor. During lunch, I called the non-emergency police line. The officer listened, pulled up the report. Cause of death appears to be stroke or cardiac event. No indication of foul play. I'm not saying foul play. I'm saying the circumstances don't match. She was crawling toward the door. The body does involuntary things during medical emergencies. Muscle spasms, reflexive movements. You think she spasmed 3 feet across the floor? Pause. Sir, according to this report, the death was quick and natural. At least it was quick. I hung up. That night I couldn't sleep again. Around 2 a.m., I heard footsteps above me. Someone walking in Mrs. Patterson's apartment. Had to be her son, still packing. But the footsteps sounded wrong somehow. Too slow. Too regular. Next morning, I saw Tom in the lobby. "How's the son doing?" I asked. "Who?" "Mrs. Patterson's son." "Packing her things." Tom shook his head. "He left yesterday afternoon. Back in Seattle now. I heard someone walking around up there last night. Building settling. Old acoustics." Tom paused. "Look, I know this has been hard on you. But you've got to move on. At least it was quick, right?" I walked away. At my desk, I started Googling. Stroke symptoms. How long they take. What I learned: some strokes kill you instantly. Others leave you conscious but paralyzed. Trapped in your body, aware of everything, unable to call for help. For minutes. Sometimes hours. If Mrs. Patterson had that kind of stroke, she would have been awake. Trying to move. Dragging herself across wet tile with one working arm while her right side was dead weight. She would have known exactly what was happening. That's not quick. When I got home, there was a note on my door. Building management. Several residents had complained about my fixation on the recent incident and my disturbing questions. I should stop discussing it with other residents. Maybe talk to a grief counselor. Here's a number. I crumpled it up. Who complained? Sarah? Denise? The cop? I sat at my table trying to think. Everyone had used the same phrase. At least it was quick. Everyone had cut me off the same way. Everyone had heard what I saw and chosen to ignore it. That evening I went upstairs and stood outside her door. Police tape was gone. Door locked. I knelt and looked under the gap. Darkness. No sounds. But I stayed there listening anyway. Saturday, I went to Mrs. Patterson's grocery store. Don't know why. In the produce section, I saw an older woman examining apples the same careful way Mrs. Patterson used to. I walked over. "Excuse me. My neighbor just passed away. I found her. I've been having trouble with it. Can I ask you something?" She looked sympathetic. "Of course, dear. If you had a stroke while alone in your home, would you be aware of it? Would you know what was happening?" She thought about it. "I suppose it depends. Some are very sudden. But others? Others, yes. You might be awake but unable to move or speak. Locked-in syndrome. I've read about it." She paused. "Why do you ask?" "Everyone says my neighbor's death was quick, but the way I found her, it didn't look quick. Her expression shifted. Hand dropped from the apple. Well, if the doctors said it was quick, I'm sure it was. They'd know better than us. But the physical evidence. Dear, grief does strange things to perception. If the professionals told you it was quick, you should trust that. At least she didn't suffer. I left my cart and walked out. That's 6 people. 6 different people, same phrase, same dismissal. I've started wondering if I misremembered. If finding her traumatized me into seeing things wrong. But I keep seeing her arm reaching for that door. 2 days ago, I got a letter from her son. Brief. Handwritten. Thanked me for finding her, said the memorial would be private. At the bottom, the medical examiner confirmed it was a massive stroke. She went quickly. We can take comfort in that. I put it in a drawer. Last night, lying in bed, I heard it again. Footsteps above me. Slow. Shuffling. Bedroom to bathroom. Then they stopped. Then water running. I called Tom. Someone's in Mrs. Patterson's apartment. I can hear water running. Long pause. You need to stop this. You're hearing things that aren't there. The apartment is empty. I'm hearing water right now. It's the pipes. Old building. Go to sleep. Call that counselor. He hung up. I stood in the dark, listening to the water run above my head. It ran for 6 minutes exactly. Then stopped. I haven't slept since. For days total now. For days of the same conversation, same phrase, like everyone's reading from a script. At least it was quick. I keep thinking about those 6 minutes. About what it's like to drown in air with a body that won't work, knowing no one's coming. That's not quick. I need to know why everyone's lying. Or why I'm the only one who sees the truth. Right now it's 11:47 p.m. I'm sitting in my dark living room writing this on my phone. If you're reading it, I posted it. I needed someone to know what I saw. What I heard. What everyone told me to forget. The footsteps just started again. I'm going up there. I don't care if the door's locked. I don't care what anyone says. I need to see what's in that apartment. I need to know what everyone else knows and won't tell me. Or I need to prove I've lost my mind. Either way, I can't keep living suspended between 2 versions of reality. The footsteps are getting louder. I'm going.